You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We're continuing our conversations with our missionaries in the field, learning more about the Lord's work and how it's impacted by the global pandemic. Joining us today, the Reverend Joel Fritsche, serving as director of Concordia Seminary and Mercy Center in Santiago, Dominican Republic. Pastor Fritsche, thanks for being our guest today.
Hey, great to be back with you guys.
Always glad to check in with you and hear how the Lord's work is carrying on and what's going on at the seminary, your family as well. So thanks so much for joining us. Tell us about the mission work in Santiago in the Dominican Republic.
So I work basically on two fronts. I serve as a church planting pastor. So I have a small mission congregation in urban Santiago, here, the second largest city in the DR. And then we have our regional seminary here in the Santiago area in Palmar Arriba as well, where we have 9 residential students with us. And that's also our home base to run our distance programs. We have 32 distance students in the pastoral formation program, working in or studying from about 12 different countries around Latin America. And then we send our professors normally to about 5 different countries for our deaconess intensive courses, where we have about 140 women in that program. So working on two fronts, church planting and seminary.
So let's first talk about just the church planting part. How has that work changed since the beginning of this pandemic for you?
Wow. Like most pastors, I think, even around the United States and probably around the world, we've gone pretty much full digital. Now, I know some are still privileged to do small meetings in the places where they serve. Here in the DR, we've gone full digital for about 3 weeks now. That means we're basically serving our people online and through WhatsApp. That's a text messaging program really popular here, or app really popular here. So sending daily devotions at least a couple times a day, doing our normal Sunday service hour we're doing it on Facebook Live every week. So do about a 30-minute devotional time with readings and a sermon and prayers. And even visiting our people, some of the pastors have been able to go to the locations of their missions and kind of stand in the street, stand outside of houses, social distancing, and check on their people. In the area where we serve, that's probably a little more dangerous to do. It's very urban, very close together, hard to get out there without being, right next to a person. So we're maintaining digital contact through cell phone, messaging, things like that with our members. So everything's gone just full digital. So a complete transition, but ministry is still happening, thanks be to God.
How do you carry on a seminary work digital? How has that changed? And how is that similar to the work that you were doing before? You were talking about distance learning.
Yeah, now we make full use of technology. We have in our 3 years of operation here. So that is, reaching 32 students in 12 countries. But even here, our guys studying in residence, we've been using Zoom for 3 years now because along with our residential students, we have 6 vicars out in Latin America. Some of them are taking a course here or there while they do their vicarage. And then sometimes there are other pastors that are auditing a course or something like that. So we've been transmitting classes pretty much consistently for the last 3 years. So that itself hasn't changed. For our professors that are serving in other countries outside the DR, like in Panama or Mexico, they've been teaching on Zoom for these 3 years from a distance, and all that's, a normal everyday thing for them. Now, for us professors, those of us here in the DR, we've made the full transition to Zoom. That means we're not sitting in the classroom with our students. We're sitting in our homes in front of the computer, teaching our 9 residential students from our homes. So that's quite a change for us. We're all used to using Zoom, but now we have to rely on it completely. We're not face-to-face with our guys in the classroom, and we have to teach through the screen. So I've had to adapt a little bit and do some extra things on Zoom that I normally don't have to do. My 9 guys in the Hebrew class that I teach are all here in the DR. So I never had to teach Hebrew at a distance before. All the guys are here. I would make use of Zoom sometimes in the classroom itself. But now I'm having to do things like connect my computer and my iPad simultaneously, use the Apple Pencil, to use a whiteboard function, all these kinds of things that I probably should have learned how to do a long time ago. But now I get to try to adapt and learn to do, and they're really helpful. But it's not the same as being in the classroom with the guys face-to-face teaching and learning. But the Lord has blessed us with this means to reach our students, and we're continuing to do it. So it's changed slightly, but making probably full use of technology now. Whereas before, technology was something certainly we were using. Now we're completely dependent on it.
Yeah. How have the seminarians responded? What has their experience been like? The ones that are in the DR, used to being in the in-person classes, and now also completely online, and the ones that are deployed. What have their experiences been like?
Well, it's different. We're all doing sheltering in place here. So students, professors, missionaries, we're all sheltering in place at our homes with our families. So that means for the 9 residential students here, 5 of those guys are dorm students. They live in the dorm, which is on the same property as the seminary. It's about 20 minutes from where our missionaries live in Santiago. So those 5 guys are sheltered in place in the dorm. So you got 5 young men in their 20s, 30s, all together in the dorm. They share rooms, so there's not a lot of private space. They can go outside of the dorm building, get some alone time. But we set up a makeshift classroom up in the dorm, and the guys are doing their classes and that kind of a thing. And then the guys that are here close to where we live, married guys who are in apartments with their spouses and families, those guys are really close by here. So they're in their apartments doing classes. I mean, life has changed a lot. None of us are really getting out that much. We're going out for essentials, for food, for medicine, propane gas, because we rely on that on a daily basis for our stoves and things. But it's really changed quite a bit. I mean, not much face-to-face contact. We can all get out and take walks and that, but pretty much closed up in our homes. The students so far are doing well. It's been difficult for them. They're keeping in touch with their families, their churches back home. We're doing the same. In fact, last week, Tuesday, we just had a meeting with our sister church body presidents just to give them an update on how the students are doing. We also wanted to hear from those church body presidents to make sure that they were okay with their students staying here in the DR until classes end toward the end of May. That was a tough decision for us because in some respects we thought about, well, should we send these guys back to their home countries? Would they be better off there? But in a lot of those places, internet isn't fully reliable, so it probably would have meant cutting off classes early. And we didn't want to have to do that if we didn't have to. So everybody's content here, sheltering in place, continuing on with classes. Our students have extra projects that they're working on during this time because normally, as I've told you guys before, as I've shared about the work here, our students are out in our missions and in the communities of our missions 10 to 15 hours a week. A lot of that is doing visitations. So obviously we can't do that right now. So our guys are doing a devotional project. So what they're doing is writing 4 devotionals per week. These are devotionals that are going to be made or are being made available to all the pastors in our sister churches in Latin America. So we're putting together a pool of resources. So our guys, while church planting is a huge focus of our program, and we can't be out in the churches physically, so to take the place of that at this time, the guys, they're still doing outreach and things like that through electronic means, but they're writing these devotionals and providing a wonderful resource for all of our pastors, our missionary pastors, and our sister church body pastors to use and share with their people in this time of the pandemic.
We have just about a minute and a half left. Would love to hear how your family is doing as well during this time.
Absolutely. In some respects, it's normal life here because my wife does classes online with Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne through the deaconess program at a distance. My boys are all doing classes online as well. And so not a single thing has really changed with that other than having dad home all week. But, I'm in my cave here doing my digital ministry, teaching my classes and things like that. So I hold up, find as quiet a place as I can. But everybody's doing really well. Probably the biggest prayer need I'd like to put before you guys and our listeners is my son, Andre. Andre, for about 1.5 years now, has been on growth hormone treatment. And he and Clarion were due to go back to the States 2 weeks ago to pick up a 3 or 4 month supply of growth hormone. And of course, they had to cancel the trip. And so within probably the next week, we're going to run out of growth hormone. Now, the good news is that it's not critical to his everyday life. I mean, he can live without the growth hormone. It's just any time that we wait before we go get the next batch, if it's a month or 6 weeks or 2 months, whatever it may be, he's just going to have very slow growth during that time. So thanks be to God, he's healthy and he's happy and he's growing, but it might be slowed up just a little bit during this time. So please keep Andre in your prayers. He has gotten used to receiving his daily shot, and pretty soon that's going to end. But he's happy, content, and he's going to be celebrating his birthday on April the 8th. So excited for him, 11 years old.
The Reverend Joel Fritsche serves as director of Concordia Seminary and Mercy Center in Santiago, Dominican Republic. Pastor Fritsche, thanks so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.